WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, X, and our website, www.wvtcdetroit.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users. Thank you for tuning to WVTC Radio Detroit and the Community Bell Show with your host, former Wayne County Commissioner Edna Bell. Stay tuned for insightful information Detroiters will find valuable. Text a friend and tell them to watch with you for news you can use. And now, your host, Edna Bell.
Good afternoon. It's Monday at 4 o'clock, so it must be the Community Bell Show. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We have a really, really very special guest today. You're going to love him. Love him. But before I introduce him, my usual voting is coming. Everybody needs to be somewhere where they can vote on the 5th of November. And in case you didn't think you could vote, let me tell you that you can. If you're 18 years old and you're a U.S. citizen, you can vote. If you have a past conviction, you too can vote. If you think that you can't vote, go to the registration, Secretary of State's office or the clerk's office in your area. They can tell you if you can vote. But everybody can pretty much vote. If you're on probation, you can vote. If you have are in jail but have not been sentenced, you can vote. Understand that your voting is your responsibility. It is so important. And I know you hear this every 4 years. This is the most important election of our lifetime. Well, this one really, really is. You just need to know that this one is so important for you and all of your ancestors and all the friends and all the people you know, and particularly for the women in your life. It's important that you get out and vote. Early voting has started. You can vote at several locations around the city, around the county. You can vote. And if you don't think you can make it on election day, well, you can vote too. There'll be sites where you can go and vote early. So just figure out a way to get to the polls and tell everybody you know. Now, there are people that you know that just, oh, I'm sure they're going to vote. Don't believe it. You better tell them to vote and tell them to vote. Just because you think that they're going to vote, don't believe that all the time. Tell them that they need to go to the polls. If you've got an 18-year-old in your house who has just graduated from high school, get him to the polls. If they're away at college, send them an absentee ballot. Hurry up and send it to them, and hurry up and have them get it back to you before election day. They can vote. It's so important for their lives, for our lives, for their children's lives, for their grandchildren's lives, all that. So make sure you get to the polls. Now for my special guest. My special guest is a young man that I've known since he was a young man. How about that? How about that? He and his wife and my niece have been best friends for over 1,000,000 years almost. Remember when his first son was born, and then his daughter, and then his daughter, and then his son. The 4 children, if you can add that. But this young man has been a very special young man, and not just my life, but my family's life for almost 50 years. So do know that in order to stay in somebody's life that long, it's got to be special. So I am honored to introduce to you the lead pastor of my church, New Prospect Missionary Baptist Church, the Reverend Craig Esther. Welcome, Craig, to the Community Bell Show.
Thank you, and thank you for having me today as well.
I am so glad you were able to come. We're going to talk about some special things today. One of them being the 100th anniversary of New Prospect Missionary Baptist Church. You know, to get to be 100 in any way is real special. But for a church to get to be 100 years old and still be there, that's extra special. Extra special. So we're going to talk about the 100th anniversary celebration of New Prospect Missionary Baptist Church. But before that, we're going to talk about Craig and Shelley. Now, as you might know, Shelley's Craig's wife. We're going to talk about Craig and Shelley and these 4 wonderful kids. That's what I love about them. These 4 wonderful kids. So I want you to talk about the babies first.
All right.
The babies first, because they are all very, very special. So you can talk about the oldest one, Craig, first. I'm sorry, Mara's first. Yeah. Mara's going to get me. Mara's the first. And I always say Craig, because Craig is real big. Yeah. The son is real big. Yes, yeah. But Myra is the oldest. And then there's Craig. Right. Yes. So talk about the babies.
All right, talk about the babies. Well, first of all, we are thankful that God has blessed us with 4 children, 4 wonderful children that we raised to know God and to know that life is not easy, but it's possible if you keep your trust in Him. And so my oldest daughter is Myra Christine, and she is now living in Dallas, Texas, and she is one of the marketing executives at Verizon Corporation. And so she has gone to school, she has done her work, and the Lord has now blessed her, and she's making her living in Dallas and living.
Yeah, she's living.
She's living life. She loves the Lord, has her church home there. Every time we go down there, we can't go without having to go to her church because she wants us to hear her pastor. And we just thank God that, you raised them, you put God in them, and you only pray that they remember what you taught them while they were growing up. So she's doing well in Dallas. And then we have Craig, which is the oldest son, who's like 6'6" and a little over 3. Man, he's under 300 now.
Oh, he loves about it too.
He's been working out.
Okay.
He sends us his workouts, and he's like, I got to do this. I'm not playing football and none of that, so I don't need to be this size. And so he's working out heavily, but he's now preparing to get his master's in fine arts at Louisiana State University.
Mm,
And he's also teaching.
okay.
Found out that he thought he was going to be assisting
Mm-hmm.
teachers, but they actually put him in a classroom
Wow.
in theater. So he's teaching that, and he's certified now to teach theater
Oh,
once he
isn't that wonderful?
graduates. So
Mm.
yeah, that's going to be a part of his resume that he'll be teaching, and he'll be working on his acting and all of that.
But
Hopefully,
you know, he was in Shakespearean
yes,
plays. He
he
marvelous.
loves Shakespeare.
Yes, yes. And
Loves Shakespeare.
just-
So he's done all kind of Macbeth, all the other plays. I can't
Mhm.
think of the names of them, but anything Shakespeare,
he loves.
he loves it, and he's done it. Matter of fact, he has a whole great big book on Shakespearean plays
Wow.
at home that he read through in like a night, because
Wow.
that's how
That's-
much he loves Shakespeare.
Isn't it?
And so he does that. He's actually directed some plays, some Shakespearean plays as well.
Isn't that incredible?
So, yep, he's doing wonderful in Louisiana. And then we have my baby girl Taylor, who just passed the bar exam 2 years ago on the first time.
Yes. Now that
Yes.
is really special
Yeah.
to pass it on the
Yeah,
first
she
time.
passed it on the first go around.
Yes.
And so she's working now as a law clerk down at the Federal Judicial Court with Judge Hood. And so she's been there. It'll be 2 years coming up, and she's getting ready to do whatever she's going to do next.
Mm.
But she has that on
She
her
is
resume.
so- it's just so
And-
wonderful to see these young people
Yes.
and all the good work they do.
Yes, and
Yes.
never gave up her
Mhm.
love for dance.
Yes.
So she's continuing. She continues to teach tap dancing.
We used to
Um,
call her Tapping Taylor,
right.
because
That
she
was
was
her
all over the
nickname.
place. If there was a dance contest going, Taylor was in it,
She
and she was
was
probably
in.
going to win.
Yes, that
she was.
tap dancing
Mm.
took her to Germany,
Mhm.
and all over the place. She's been tapping with a group that she used to tap with called Tapping Souls.
Mhm.
And so they're all grown ups now.
Isn't
They're
that
all
something?
moving on, doing their thing.
And the best part is she still comes to church, and
Yes.
she does liturgical dancing at church
Yes.
on Sundays. It's just
Yep.
such a blessing. I just love
Liturgical
watching
dance,
them.
mime,
Yes,
all of that.
all of that.
She's still in the arts field, even though she's a lawyer.
Mhm.
And so she says she'll never give that up. So
And that's something.
she moves on with that. And then my baby boy, his name is James, and he is now on the Green Bay Packers.
How about
He's
that?
he wasn't drafted last year. He came on as an undrafted free agent, but he stayed and he made the team. So he's on the practice squad right now. So that practice squad prepares them for whenever the need comes for
Somebody
them to
gets
be,
injured.
yeah, to become active.
He's the one.
Then they pull him up on the active squad. So he's in Green Bay, Wisconsin. He's enjoying life. He just put out a post the other day. I love my life. So
Isn't that wonderful?
I said, you love it, I love it too.
That's right.
And
That's
so
right.
and we do all we can to support all four of them. Anytime they're doing something, me and my wife Shelley, we try to be there so that they know their parents
Absolutely.
are in support of what they're
And
doing.
what's so amazing about it, his son went to Northern Illinois University.
Yes,
He and Shelley went to every game when he was there.
we went to
Every game, everybody. Every
Yes.
game. Come
Yes.
hell, sleet, snow, whatever. They were there.
We were
I
on the
just think
road.
that's marvelous.
Yeah.
They were on the
Yeah.
road at every game he played. That in itself is a testament to the love that these folks have for their children and the support they give to their children. Parents, support your babies.
Yes.
Support your babies.
And it's important for them to know that if nobody else cares, at least your parents do.
That's right.
And we're gonna be there, good times, bad times. Sometimes at the games we would be like, okay, we're gonna have to talk to him after this guy. He's gonna be down. We have to lift him up,
Yeah.
encourage him to move on. But that was with all of them,
Mhm. There's
whatever
always.
they were doing, they knew that they would have our encouragement in the end. And sometimes it would be like, okay, y'all need this encouragement because you could have did this a little different.
Just a little
But
bit.
we always have to push and pull to make sure they get where they're trying to go.
Isn't that wonderful?
Mhm.
And and I just love it. But let me go back 30 some odd years now to when the first baby was born. You know, as a family, we have these Christmas Eve celebrations, and we started doing it when my children were babies because the kids didn't want to leave their house on Christmas Day because they had all their toys. They didn't want to go anywhere. They wanted to play. And so we started doing Christmas Eve celebrations. And we did the Christmas Eve celebrations at the kids' great grandmother's house. And Shelly and Craig were part of the family, so they just came on too, and they were part of the Christmas Eve celebration with everybody else. But to see their children, and to see Myra and Craig and Taylor and James, to have known them when they were so little bitty people, and now to look at James, who is how big is James now?
He's like 6'4",
and his arm is almost as big as my whole body. And I look at him and said, "But that was a baby, a little bitty thing." And now look at him.
Yeah.
But such a blessing. And I wanted you to talk about the babies because so often children don't get the support they need from the parents and the people around them.
Yeah.
And we talk about schools these days and children doing all sorts of things and not succeeding. I blame the parents in many cases because parents are the backbone of the family. And parents set the model for what children should be doing. And they need to support and encourage those babies and need to talk to them when they're not doing the right thing. That's what they're for.
Absolutely.
And so when I look at these 4 children and I look at some of the other children around the area, and I think these babies just need some parents who care.
Yeah.
Some parents who are there. Some parents who are with them and can talk to them and help them and show them the right way. And so parents, think about what you're doing with your children or what you are not doing with your children and see if you can't fix it because these babies need you. Fix it. They need us. It is so important to have babies that have support of their parents. Now, mind you, Craig was a teacher also. His wife and he were both teachers. And so they understand school systems. They understand how important it is that parents are there to support their children in all of their activities. And so I wanted him to talk about the babies just to say to you, there's something to backing your kids up.
Yeah.
There's something to making sure that they know you are there in the good and the bad times. Because there are going to be some bad times, but as long as the parents are there and they've got some support, they can work their way through it. They'll get through it. But parents, you have a responsibility to get with those babies and let them know that you are going to be there to support them.
Yeah.
Important.
Yeah.
Now,
I was going to say, as a former Detroit public school teacher, it was very important for me that when the parents who would come to parent-teachers conference, let me start there, how important it is for them to have that support at home. Because I found that even in parent-teachers conferences, the parents only come with what they have on their minds about what we've been doing instead of what they haven't been doing.
Yes.
And so, like, I'll give you for instance, one time I had a parent come in and tell me that her son could read. Now he sat in my class every day. I know he couldn't read. And I told her, I said, well, when he comes to school, for some reason, he gets amnesia because he hasn't been able to read in my class since we started the school year. I said, I'll give you for instance. And I had him to go grab one of the books that we were using in the classroom. I said, now read the lesson for today. And he couldn't read one word of the lesson. And she said, well, he reads at home. I said, well, what is he reading? I said, because reading is not just being able to say some words. Reading is being able to phonetically see the words, see the sentence, see the paragraph, and know what it's saying and know what it means. And she was like, well, we don't go through all of that. I said, but that's a part of parental support. You know, and so that's what our children need, is that parental support. And not only from the family, because that's why I thank God for the Bell family, because you really have to have a village.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have to have a village around your kids because we're not there all the time. You all weren't there all the time,
Yeah.
but the moments that you spent with them were important. My oldest daughter always goes back and remembers when James had on the Santa Claus hat that
Yes.
one night, and she all she remembered was that's what Santa Claus wore, and that's what she called him,
Mhm.
Santa Claus. You know, little fun and fine memories like that
Yeah.
that they have with other people besides us,
Mm-hmm.
because we realize that our kids don't only need us, but they need a village.
Absolutely.
They need people around them that's going to support them. They need people around them that's going to encourage them to move forward. They need people around them that's going to care about them just like they know we care about them, so that they realize that life can be lived because there's people that are showing us how they're living it today.
Exactly. And you don't, just saying it doesn't matter.
Right.
You have to show
You
it.
have to show it.
You have to show that, I care about you. I
Mhm.
love you.
Mhm.
And your actions do that all the time.
Absolutely.
And I think back to when the kids were little and when we were at least, when we take the pictures of them.
Right.
And now the stairway isn't quite big enough
See?
for all of them. There
That's
used to
right.
be little things sitting on the stairway, and now we have to maneuver to get
Right.
all of
You gotta
them.
get everybody
to get all
in.
of them on the stairway because they're all big people now.
Yeah.
And of course, my kids have their own kids,
Mhm.
and so it's just
It's been wonderful.
amazing to watch. It's just a blessing and a joy to watch them as they grow up and they learn and they go their own
Mhm.
ways and tackle life. And it's just
Yeah.
it's just it's a blessing.
Yes.
I'm thrilled to watch them all the time
Amen.
and say, look
all
at these
of
babies.
them have a story
Yes.
about how you all have been some part of their life, and the good thing is they bring it back. They talk about it. I remember we used to go over Grandma Bell's, because that's what they call
Yes.
Miss Bell.
Yeah.
We used to go over Grandma Bell's, and we had all of this, and Alicia and Sonia and Miss Edna and James would be Mr. James. That's what they call him,
Yeah,
Mr.
Mr.
James.
James.
They would be there, and we would be singing songs. They
Yes,
remember singing
yes,
the song,
yep.
and they remember having to read
Having
the
to read the
scripture.
scripture because
Yeah.
they all had to read the
All had to
scripture.
read the scripture. The babies had to read
Yep.
the scripture. So, and all of that became a fundamental part of their life. And that's what I say when we talk about villages. It's who you put them around. It's the messages that they receive, and it's the love that is shown, like
Yes.
you said. Because I always say this in my sermons. My mother used to always tell me people would rather see a sermon than to hear one.
Amen. That's right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of your mother and going back, now you see this wonderful pastor here and former teacher. Craig, talked to him about when you were in high school before. before.
Yeah, I wasn't always what you see today. But I did come from a home that was a Christian home. And it was my decision to go out and live the life that I lived. And I was really thankful for my parents because they gave me an opportunity to do that with the understanding that what they had taught me would bring me back, or hopefully bring me back. And it did. I was a gangster. I'll be honest. I was a gangster.
I love him. I love him telling this story.
If anybody knows about the 8 Mile crew, I was a part of the 8 Mile crew. I was a part of the Prairie Gang. All of that. Did some things where I could have gotten in a whole lot of trouble. I followed my oldest brother because he was way out there too. And he was doing stuff. I wanted to do what he was doing, so he would bring me around. So they called him Big Man, and they called me Little Big Man. And we did stuff in the streets that we really didn't have any business doing. But God.
But God,
But
there
for
it
the
is.
grace of God.
And parents.
And parents.
See, when I
Did
talk
you
about
get that
parents,
right?
get
Yes.
back to the parents
Yeah.
who had taught them better. They just hadn't figured out, I better not be doing this.
Right.
But they
Right.
knew that if the parents got hold to them,
Absolutely.
They were in
There
trouble.
was trouble. It was trouble, and then I thank God, like I said, for the villages. Because when we were growing up on our street, everybody was your parent.
yes, that's the difference. I
That's
think.
the difference.
That's the difference.
Because we don't allow other parents in the neighborhood not to say anything to our kids. We get upset. We want to fight because somebody said something to them, trying to help us. And my thing is, I'm grateful for everybody that says something to one of my children that I may not even know about, but you said it and it encouraged them to be positive. So right now, if you're on the line, if you're on the TV station, thank you for blessing me with being a part of my children's life, so that they're the better for their journey because of you. And up and down the street though, were our parents. We could get whippings down the street.
That's right.
And sometimes we would beg them to whip us because we didn't want to get one when we got home.
Right.
And that was the blessing of having what I call community.
Yes.
Because the community that loves you is going to always keep their arms around you. And that's what I was thankful for growing up.
Those were the days when you had to be on the porch when the street lights came on.
See the light flicker, you better start right.
That's right. You had to be there.
Because eventually you hear your name called.
Yes. And then, so your mama's calling you.
Right. If you didn't hear it, they heard it for you.
That's right. And the word passed.
Yeah.
And you were making your way to that porch. That's right. That's right. I'd love to see that happen again.
Me too.
I would love to see that happen again, because I see children out late at night and I'm thinking, why are these babies out here this time of night by themselves?
Right, by themselves. And not teenagers.
No, we're talking 9, 10, 11 years old.
Absolutely.
They shouldn't be anywhere by themselves.
Anywhere.
Ever.
Right. No.
Ever. And so, you were grateful for those people who lived down the block, for the Miss Jones and all the folks. Ours was Miss Mitchell, and everybody knew. Miss, you gonna tell your mother before you got home. The story had made it.
Right. Most time when you got to the door, my dad, he would have the belt in his hand.
They were waiting for you.
I'm like, what did I do? And then he'll tell you what you did. Now you remember, Lord, they saw me. Somebody caught me out there. And so that was the wonderful part of growing up. And when I went to the military, one night I was just sitting there reminiscing and thinking about it. And I called my father and I thanked him. I thought he was too rough on me, but I had to thank him, because if it had not been for that, I don't know where I would have landed.
There you go. You don't know where you will end up. Don't know. And it's just a blessing. And you think back to those times, and you didn't like them very much.
Right.
but now, thank you, Lord.
Thank you. You learn to love them. And then I see my kids doing me the same way. And I said, okay, I know what they're doing. And they'll say thank you later.
Yeah. It'll come. It'll come. Well, let's talk about 100 years. 100 years on the corner of Pembroke and Livernois.
Yes. And I'm astounded and so happy and thankful that I'm alive to see the 100 years. But I'm even more grateful that I've been there 54 of those 100.
Wow, isn't that something?
54 of those 100 years I've been a member of New Prospect. And my mother was pregnant with me when she joined the church.
Wow.
In 1961.
Isn't that something?
Yes.
Wow.
And Reverend Heath was there then. And then in 1968, Reverend Dr. S. Leon Whitney came and took the ranks
and took it on in
with the church. And the reason why I'm going down the line is because not only are we there for 100 years, but we have to look at the shoulders that we stand on.
Yes.
For all of that time.
Yes.
People like Reverend Powles, who was there as one of the beginning pastors of the church. And all of the reverends that came behind him, when the church was on Wisconsin.
Yes.
And all of that. Then we moved when the Reverend Heath got there to Pembroke. He was the one that enabled us to get that building. And my mother used to work as a safety patrol person on Pembroke and Livernois.
Oh, wow. A pastor's school.
Yeah, and Pastor was right there. And so on her breaks, she would go sit on the steps of New Prospect.
Mm,
And that's how she met Reverend Heath.
wow.
And he would come out and he would talk to her, and that's what caused her to join the church.
Isn't that
It's a
something?
blessing to go back in your history and just see how God blessed the journey, And so all of these years we've been standing on the shoulders of the people who sustained the church.
Yes.
So we're only here because they sustained
That's
it,
right.
because it could have fell apart
That's right.
years
That's right.
ago. Or it
That's
could have
right.
been big splits
Mm-hmm.
that took the church and closed the church doors, but we're still standing. So we stand on those shoulders, as Leon Whitney's. We stand on Reverend Dr. Keith L. Whitney's shoulders.
He was there too.
We stand on Reverend Randolph Henley's shoulder. He was the interim pastor after Pastor Whitney, Keith Whitney, went and began his life at another church. And then, of course, Reverend Dr. Wilma R. Johnson,
Yes.
who came and just was a blessing to New Prospect. She was what the church needed at that time. Because she
God
was
sends
able
you
to,
what you need when you need it.
what you need. She was able to galvanize the few people that were there, because we had gone down
Yes.
to a low number. We was like around 200 or 300 members when Pastor Johnson got there, and it got up to over 4,000 at one time.
Yes. We had to have two services.
It was a must.
Yeah.
And me and her started talking about 3.
Oh, wow.
But 2 did it, and we thank God for that. And we thank God that God sent us somebody that loved people.
Yes.
Because the church is not the building.
Absolutely.
The church is the people that come. And Pastor loved people. And she was a people person.
Yes, she was.
And everything she did through our talks, because it was many days, I was her assistant for 8 years, from 2008 to 2016 when she passed away. I was at the hospital when she passed away. And for all of those years that I was there with her, she always talked about how are we going to maneuver the people? What are we going to do to help the people to grow? What are we going to do to help the people to learn? What are we going to do to help the people become? That's why I say that all the time, because that's what we talk about all the time, learning, growing, and becoming, because that's the most important thing you can do for the church. It's not the building. It's not when you come there, of course, they're going to show you the building, New Prospect, 100 years. But what we have to really learn and begin to comprehend is that the people are the church.
Yes.
Every individual that walks in the building and says they have been saved by the grace of God, that's the church building. And when we learn how to love one another like Jesus asked us to, that's when the community will broaden itself. And that's what Pastor Johnson was all about.
Yes, she was.
Broadening the community, broadening the people. Up and down Livernois. We don't just want to be on Livernois. We want to be up and down Livernois. We want New Prospect to spread so that people understand there's a church they can come to where they'll be loved, they'll be blessed, and they'll be forgiven.
There it is. There it is.
And so these 100 years for me are just like really great years, I'm thinking, because all of that has taken place. And we just have to continue it on. We just have to continue living, learning, growing, and loving. If we can do that, we'll have peace in the valley.
Yes.
And,
Peace in the valley.
And the church will continue to grow.
It will grow and prosper.
And prosper.
And the piece that has always been so special is the outreach.
Absolutely.
The outreach is so special. Pastor School, which is right across the street.
Yeah.
We adopted them years ago. And have continued to work with them. And Pastor only had to ask for what it wanted.
That's
and New Prospect was about trying to get it for it. Whatever it was.
Everything they needed, because we were going to make sure that was not just a school in the community, but a part of the community church.
Yes.
And that's what it's all about. And I was thankful when she asked, actually, Reverend Ronald Copeland, she took him on the corner of Livernois and Pembroke and told him to look up and down the street. And when he looked up and down the street, after he got done looking, she said to him, I want this community, and I want you to go out here and develop it where the church becomes a part of the community. Give me this community. That's what she was saying.
Yes.
And Reverend Ronald Copeland did just that.
Absolutely.
He went out up and down the street. Everybody knows him. They call him the community pastor. And people know New Prospect. And when they see him, they see New Prospect. Right. And when they see me, they see New Prospect. And they know that we care about them.
Exactly.
If nothing else, we care about them.
You mentioned Reverend Ron Copeland. We need to say thank you, God, for Ron Copeland.
We need to thank the Lord. He just received a kidney the other day.
He was on the waiting list. And
he was on the waiting list a long time. And the Lord blessed him on Wednesday night. That kidney came in, and so he received his kidney. And the blessed part of it is the night he received the kidney began to function.
That's the blessing.
That's the blessing of it. And so right now he's in the healing process, going through a little bit of pain last night and today. But we realized that God is still healing and God is still blessing. And when I went to visit him, he had already walked around the floor. He's on 2 times.
Reverend Ron is special.
He gonna get up.
He gonna get up. Yeah, he as a matter of fact, has put together a conference for tomorrow.
Yes.
For youth in the community. And my grandson, Mr. Cranston Young, is the keynote speaker.
Yes.
But I got a call from Ron today. And I'm thinking, and I did miss the call. And I said, Reverend Ron. And so when I called him back, he was probably doing something. So I just left this message. What are you doing on the phone calling me? And you're in the hospital just received a kidney.
Right.
What are you doing?
Probably making sure you're going to be there tomorrow.
Yeah, and I hear you are following up on this meeting and you're in the hospital. But I said, well, I'll be darned. Here he is calling, following up on this meeting he put together. And I said, you get off this phone.
So he's been a stalwart for us in the community, and we can't thank him enough, for what he's done and what he continues to do.
But I'm just thank you, Lord, for that kidney that's functioning already.
We wait to see what the Lord's going to do.
And he does stuff. Wow, goodness.
Yeah.
When you aren't even thinking about it, he's working. He's working. So we thank Reverend Ron Copeland for that. That's just such a blessing, such a blessing.
Yes.
And we have this event tomorrow coming up. The New Prospect is sponsoring that Reverend Ron put together.
Yes.
And it's to our young people. It's for the youth to talk about volunteering and voter education and community education. And I happen to be one of the panelists along with Deborah Hunter Harville, Dr. Harville, and a couple of other wonderful young ladies. And we're going to talk about community.
Yes.
We just and share with young people the importance of community a little bit. And I like to give them history because they need to know their history. They need to know from whence they came and their stories in the city that some of these young people have never heard of.
Absolutely.
And so that's what my piece is going to be about, to talk about one of those stories. I'm just proud of my brother, so I'll talk about Chantel.
There you go.
That's what I'll talk about. Somebody that some of these young people have never heard about.
That's right.
But they need to know the stories. They need to know what went on in the city they live in.
Yes.
And what has made this city such a special city.
Absolutely.
And so it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful event tomorrow. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it. But I was just so outdone when I saw this message on my phone. Reverend Ron Copeland. I said, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're in the hospital.
Right. Yeah.
But he is just one of God's special people.
Yeah.
He really, really is. And so we just are so thankful for him. Talk about some of the events that are going to happen for our 100th anniversary.
I sure will. Coming up, actually, on October the 18th, will be our banquet. And we'll have our banquet down at the Rooster Tail, where we're going to come down. And it's not going to be like a normal banquet where you have the dais and all the great people sitting on the dais and all of that. No, it's going to be a family affair. So we're all going to be just sitting around, no special tables. Everybody will be together and we'll just be able to communicate, walk around the different tables and talk to everybody about these 100 years and how great they've been and what God is doing and how God is going to bless us in the future. So we have the banquet coming up, and then on October the 26th, no, on October the 26th, we have our legacy luncheon, which is going to be at New Prospect itself. And that's where all of the all of the members who have 43 years or more are going to be invited. There's going to be a luncheon. All of the sons and daughters in the ministry are invited to come out to that as well. And we'll have a small service, and then we'll eat together, and then we'll talk together and communicate and love on one another.
Yes.
And that'll be that. And then on October the 20th, I'm going backwards and forwards, but on October the 20th, we have our pre-anniversary Sunday, where one of the sons of the ministry of the church is going to be coming to preach, and that will be the Reverend Jake Gaines at Synagogue Baptist Church, pastor of Synagogue Baptist Church. He'll be coming, and he'll be preaching on that Sunday, and then on October 27th will be the big shindig.
Big day.
That'll be the day we celebrate our 100th anniversary, and we have Reverend Dr. James Minnick from Mount Pleasant Baptist Church. He'll be coming to preach. And the way I set that up is because I wanted us to have one son from the ministry, but then I wanted us to have somebody that I know loved Pastor Johnson and loved the church. And so I know he does that. And so he'll come and preach for us on Anniversary Sunday.
Wow. It's going to be a great time. It truly is a celebration. It truly is a celebration.
It is.
So for those of you who probably don't know, when we have the new building, but we had the old building under Reverend Whitney.
Yeah.
And then Reverend Whitney built the new building. I remember marching into the new building on that Sunday. But then the other piece is Reverend Johnson. We used to own the house that was right next to the church on Stopel. Shade took that spot and made that into the Light Center.
Yeah.
And it has teaching centers and a bookstore, and I didn't realize that there was that much space over there.
Yeah, because I'm going to talk about the history of that in a minute.
Talk about that.
Because the history of that is that when the Light Center was even dreamed about, like Mother Edna said, there was two houses that were on that property down the street that we built the Light Center on. One of those houses belonged to a long church family member, ourselves, and that was the Mims family. They were the owners of that house, and people were trying to buy that house from him. And he said the only person he would sell that house to was New Prospect, because the church had been in the community for a long time, and his whole family grew up there. There were 17 kids in this family, and all of them grew up at New Prospect. Wow. Every last one of them. And he said, my children grew up here. My wife is a member here. Now get it, he wasn't a member there, but he loved the church. And he said, nobody would get this church but New Prospect. So when the Light Center became a dream and a vision, Pastor went and talked to Mr. Mims about that house. I'm on the one house now, about his house. And he was willing, because at that time they were the only two, him and his wife, in the house. They would get ready to move where they could be more comfortable and didn't have to do all that upkeep. And so he said, I'm selling the house to you.
Wow.
So he sold that house. Yes. And then the house next door to his was New Prospect's house. It was actually where our minister of music lived, Brother Joe Jenkins.
And Joe
moved a long time ago to Alabama, and he started a ministry there in music. And so that building was there for ourselves anyway. So we tore down those two houses, and up came the Light Center. And Miss Edna just told you, it's got a lot of things in it for teaching, for learning. Young people even have a wee room in there. We is out of style now, so I guess whatever other games they do, you can do that in there. And all kinds of
classrooms,
things,
just
library,
a small chapel.
chapel,
Chapels over
fine
there.
arts
Mhm,
room, you know,
mhm.
where the music
Yeah,
ministry
historical
rehearses.
room,
Got the heritage
heritage
room,
room. Mhm.
all of those things, and the Wilmar Johnson Chapel is there.
Yes.
You know, so we used to do 2 funerals in one day because we could
Mhm.
use the chapel and the
And so,
sanctuary to do homegoing services. So we're a blessed church. And
absolutely.
God has blessed us, and we have all these things. And now we just got to continue to keep it up by loving one another and continuing to do the work that God called us to do. And I always talk about ministry that counts,
Mm,
because all we do for Christ is going to last. Nothing else.
that's
Only what we do for Him. So
that's it's just it's a really a wonderful story.
it
It is. It's
is.
just
It
a story
is.
that just needs to be told. And we even have the property across the street at the Light
Yes.
Center.
We had a light center,
Mhm.
which used to be the Wheels
Yeah,
building.
the Howard
The
Wills
Howard
building.
Wells building, that was one of our deacons.
Uh-huh.
That was a member there. You don't have me teaching a
Oh, come
history
on.
lesson at a minute. He was one of our faithful deacons. And so Pastor S. Leon Whitney bought that building across the street, and we named it after Howard Wills. So that his memory would continue on and his legacy would continue on. So when Pastor Wilmar Johnson came,
Mhm.
she saw another need for the building, and we called it at the Lighthouse.
Mhm.
And we called it at the Lighthouse because it was going to be a beacon of light for the community. So it's a
Mhm.
community center where people could come in. You know, people, members of the church have had their birthday parties there,
Yeah, family reunion
family
dinners,
reunion
all sorts of.
dinners,
Mhm.
repast,
Mhm.
all of those kinds of things are there. And now in the building, we have what's known as No Barriers to Success. And that's where the program on tomorrow is coming
Yes.
from. There's a family that takes a part of that, and they deal with young people from ages 16 to 24, and just help them to walk through life so that they'll be successful.
Mhm.
These are young people who are living on the edge of life that come there, but they're being trained, they're being mentored, they're being encouraged, so that so that they realize they still have life to live, and it can be
Absolutely.
prosperous, and it doesn't have to be the way it was before they came there.
And that makes such a difference for people to know that there is some place they can go.
Yes,
There are people who care about them
right,
enough to put together programs that will help them succeed and get
absolutely.
out of whatever it is they're mired in
Mhm.
and bring them on back into the world that's going to make them successful. So important.
Absolutely.
That's what we did tutoring
Yes,
for young people.
that's where we did tutoring.
So just some history in those buildings that will go on and on and on.
Yeah,
And it's interesting. I look now. Um, of course, our membership isn't what it used to be, but I remember we had to have two services, and the parking lot across the street
yes,
was full.
yes,
And the parking lot that's next to the church on Liberty,
yes,
we didn't have enough parking for folks.
absolutely.
And so I look forward to those days coming back
Yes.
when we will be able to serve people in that community and minister to them and let them know what God has in store for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
You said something key, because that's the whole idea of the church, is to serve.
yes.
You know the two disciples asked Jesus who would be the greatest in heaven,
Mhm.
and Jesus came back and told them, if you want to be great in heaven, be a servant.
There it
Be a
is.
servant. Serve other people. And I always remember Reverend Dr. S. Leon Whitney had a saying, and it was no beast, said our least. And those words mean not for ourselves, but for others.
And that's what that corner of light on New at Livernois and Pembroke is meant to be.
Absolutely.
A light to the community, to serve people, to serve everybody.
Mhm.
So everybody, New Prospect celebrating 100 years of service to the community. come celebrate with us. Come
Yes.
celebrate on any of the occasions with us. Well, you can't necessarily come to the banquet now because you may not have a ticket to the
Right.
banquet. You gotta have a ticket. You gotta have a ticket to come to the banquet now. I'm just saying, don't show up in the Rooster Tail without a ticket.
Yeah.
But
You are welcome to our worship service.
You are welcome to come to the worship
Yes.
service and serve with us and meet us,
Yes.
and we will greet you with open arms because that's what we do at New Prospect.
Yes.
Reverend Craig, thank you so much.
Oh, you're
It
welcome.
has been
Thank
my
you.
pleasure to have you. You
Yeah.
got to come back. You got to come
Whenever
back.
you
You got
have
to
me,
come
I'll
back.
come.
This has just been a pleasure to be with Reverend Craig Esther, lead pastor of New Prospect Missionary Baptist Church, celebrating 100 years of service to the community. As the kids say, now they probably don't even say this anymore. Be there or be square. They're probably looking at me like, what are you talking about? But okay,
Right.
I'm sorry.
But that's what we know. So.
That's all I remember.
Yes. And
Thank you.
remember,
Yes.
come out, join us on the 20th and the 27th. We'll be glad to have you in our worship services and worship with us, because every Sunday at New Prospect, we say we come to church to worship the Lord in spirit and in truth. And that's what we're about. God bless you. Have a great day.
We thank you, everybody. Have a great day. And I'll see you next Monday, 4 o'clock on the Community Bell Show. Have a great week.
Yes.
Get ready, Detroit! The Gospel Music Workshop of America Detroit chapter presents Women Impacting the World 2024. Join us for an unforgettable concert experience featuring a powerhouse 100-voice women's choir under the direction of Evangelist Sandra Rose, along with Sheila Oden, Sherry Watson Robinson, and Teresa Youngblood. It's all happening Sunday, October 20th at 4 p.m. at the Greater Burnett Baptist Church, 16801 Schoolcraft Road. Oh, and that's not all. We're honoring some of Detroit's finest women, including Commissioner Alicia Bell, Reverend Mother Norma Jean Pender, Bishop Coletta Vaughn, and Dr. Carol Cole. With musical special guests Akita Steen and Fire. This is one concert you do not want to miss, and admission is free. A free will offering will be collected. For more information, visit gmwadetroit.org. Be there and witness women impacting the world.
Thank you for listening to Community Bell with your host, former Wayne County Commissioner Edna Bell. This broadcast was brought to you by WVTC Radio Detroit. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, our website, www.wvtcradio.com, or download our WVTC app from the Play Store for Android users and the App Store for iPhone users. If you've enjoyed this broadcast, tell a friend to tune in. We'll see you next Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern to the Community Bell Show, right here on WVTC Radio Detroit.
Go to your Apple or Google Play Store and download the WVTC Gospel Radio app today. You can also say, Alexa, play WVTC Radio Skills.
Would you like to play WVTC Radio Network?
Absolutely. Download it today.
You're listening to WVTC Gospel Radio Detroit, and we're flowing in the Spirit.